The story begins. Continuing from the previous story, several strange events unfolded that I can't forget. Out in the city, I usually don't like to give my full name when meeting new people. I've always felt that introducing myself with both first and last names sounds so formal and cold, making others feel less close. So friends of friends just know me as Tiffany, and they don't even know my last name. One day, during dinner with a close friend, I was halfway through our chat when suddenly he called me by my full name. "Hey, Emily Johnson," he said loudly. I was stunned. "How do you know my full name?" I asked, puzzled. I was sure I hadn't told him. "One day I called you, and a girl answered the phone. She said, 'Is this Emily Johnson? She's sleeping now,'" he explained confidently. "That's impossible," I insisted. "I'm just joking, honestly, it was a girl." His tone was sincere, without a hint of teasing. I really wanted to believe him, but a nagging doubt crept in. I live alone, after all. If a friend came over, I wouldn't leave her alone while I slept beside her. Who really answered that phone? Coincidentally, another strange incident tied into this phone call mystery. That night I had a dinner date with another friend at 7. Around 6, I was in the bathroom, taking a shower and getting ready to go out. After showering, I came out around 6:20, finished my makeup, and by 6:30, I was just about ready. Perfect timing, just enough to leave without being late. As I was putting on my shoes at the hallway, my phone rang. "Have you finished your shower?" my friend asked. "Yes, I'm heading out now. How did you know I was in the shower?" I asked casually. I thought it was normal. She knew I liked to shower before going out. But her next words gave me goosebumps, making me sweat cold enough to need another shower. "That's what your friend just said. I called you and she told me you were showering," she said. She hung up, leaving me stunned and blank. I quickly checked my phone's call log. There was a record of a call at 6:13, lasting 20 seconds, exactly when I was showering. I remembered that earlier incident, and despite my normally carefree attitude, I couldn't help but feel afraid. I called my best friend, Lucy, desperately asking her to move in with me. Without hesitation, she packed her essentials and moved in the very next day. The helpful ghost that had been helping me also made a strange appearance. Not on my phone this time, but through the home landline. Our mahjong games had left me owing too much to the phone company, which limited my outgoing calls but allowed incoming, so I kept receiving automated reminders. One evening, while Lucy was alone at my place, the house phone rang. We were used to ignoring the automated messages, listening silently before hanging up. But this time, Lucy picked up the receiver, and the familiar voice began reciting the usual script. "Hello, this is Chunghwa Telecom, your bill." However, the moment she put the phone to her ear, her lips froze in shock, her mouth forming an O of disbelief. The caller claimed they were looking for Emily Johnson. Before Lucy could respond, another voice cut in, answering for her. "She's not here. Who are you looking for?" They exchanged a few words, but Lucy, like a silent eavesdropper, stood there rooted, unable to speak. Time seemed to freeze as she finally regained her senses, hurriedly grabbing her phone, wallet, and keys, and dashed out. She called me, insisting I move out immediately. I'd thought about moving before, but with a 1-year lease, early termination meant losing a month's deposit, over $1,000, so I held on. Besides, I hadn't seen or heard anything concrete, so I convinced myself I could endure for a year. There were 3 months left on my contract. From the past, you might think I was brave, but after all that happened, I was more terrified than ever. One day, while taking a shower, I suddenly plunged into complete darkness. The hot water disappeared without warning. I fumbled for my towel in the dark, hurriedly drying myself. As I stepped out of the bathroom, I heard a loud bang on the front door, accompanied by ear-splitting cursing. Damn you. Do you know what time it is? Fuck your mother. Every night this noise, don't you sleep? God damn it, %. What was happening? I had just finished my shower around 8 p.m. Was it really so late? And what had I done to deserve such a disturbance? Normally, I wasn't easily frightened, even considered brave among my friends. But now, with my wet hair wrapped in a towel, facing the violent, furious man outside, I felt helpless. Plus, the entire room was pitch black. Why did I feel such murderous intent? Because I was sure he held an axe or a hammer, pounding so hard that I nearly believed he'd break down the door within minutes. How could he make such noise without anyone stopping him? And what about the power outage? Undeniably, I was terrified. Fear was an understatement. The headline flashed in my mind: "Woman found dead in her apartment. Neighbor suspected of killing her." I hurriedly dressed, trying to find some normalcy, but suddenly the shouting ceased. Silence fell, as if nothing had happened. I tiptoed to the door, wanting to listen for anyone outside, and noticed light seeping under it. Wasn't there a power outage? I wondered. But I lacked the courage to open the door and see what was outside. I couldn't imagine what terrifying face was waiting for me, nor did I want him to recognize me. In desperation, I remembered the landlord's contact number for the superintendent listed on the lease. Using the faint light of my phone, I found the contract and dialed the number. When the superintendent arrived, I opened the door to a brightly lit hallway. "Is the power out?" I asked, knowing full well it wasn't. The superintendent checked my circuit breaker, flipped a few switches, and the room suddenly brightened again. "Probably a power surge," he said, closing the box. I told him about the fierce man banging on my door with a weapon, and we went together to inspect the door's damage. Aside from the original dent, there were no new marks. "This dent was here before you moved in, a long time ago," he said. I knew that dent well, a 6-centimeter long gouge with small scratches around it. It must have taken a lot of force to leave such a mark. I remembered noticing it when I moved in, but thought nothing of it since it didn't affect the door's function. Now, I wondered about its origin. I asked the superintendent, and he didn't disappoint. He had worked here for over 10 years and knew all the gossip. "That's from the tenant downstairs. Used to play loud music and jump around all night. The 4th-floor tenant often came up to yell at him. He's moved out now," he explained. After that, he hurried down, leaving me with a strange, inexplicable feeling. A sense of unease I couldn't quite name. Before entering my apartment, I decided to apologize to the young couple next door, realizing the noise must have disturbed their baby. "Sorry for the noise earlier," I said softly. The young mother looked confused. "What noise?" she asked, cradling her sleeping baby. "Someone was banging on my door really hard, and I thought it might have disturbed you," I explained. "We didn't hear anything," she said, still puzzled. It was too strange. My neighbors on the other side hadn't heard a thing, and my door bore no new marks from last night's pounding. If I hadn't still smelled the faint scent of the hair conditioner I hadn't rinsed properly due to the no hot water issue, I would have thought I'd just woken from a dream. The next day, the landlord came to collect rent, and I decided to ask him for the full story. He assured me that my apartment wasn't haunted and that no accidents had ever happened here. As for the fourth-floor unit, the original owner had died, though not in my suite. The building's corner shop used to be a pachinko arcade, run by the same owner who had died in a car accident nearby at the arcade's entrance, around dawn, after closing hours. Wise friends, do you think this history explains some of the strange phenomena I experienced? I believe that after death, spirits unconsciously repeat the behaviors of their living lives, like the violent neighbor upstairs, or the elevator that mysteriously runs late at night, bringing the same restless energy. The unexplained dent on the door and the midnight elevator rides could be spirits replaying their last moments. Yet, even with all this, my mood didn't lighten. If anything, it grew heavier. Since then, I've always left the wooden door slightly ajar, never fully closed, listening to the sounds of neighbors walking outside, which gives me a strange sense of security. But I also dread the moment something terrifying might suddenly happen outside that door again, testing my nerves. On the whole building, central air conditioning was installed, ceiling vents in each room, and a control switch on the wall. The switch was old, with a rotary dial to adjust the temperature. We kept the thermostat at 28 degrees Celsius, a temperature that's cool but not cold, even with the blanket kicked off. Yet, in the dead of night, my friend Lily and I often found ourselves fighting for the blankets, as the air conditioning inexplicably turned colder. Sometimes, the dial was turned down to 18 degrees, even though neither of us went near it. Who was afraid of the heat? Despite all this, Lily was my best friend. She stayed with me through thick and thin, even after everything I'd experienced. She commuted from Bangchao to Taipei every day, which was tiring, and often she left before I even woke up. One day, she returned home and insisted I move out. She said she saw me sitting at the dressing table, brushing my hair, when she returned, but when she looked again, I was still in bed, fast asleep. She left silently, leaving me alone with the strange floating presence in my apartment. I thought she was just tired of the long commute, but deep down, I wondered if there was something more. I told her I could move back to Bangchao, that she should stay here if she wanted, and I'd visit her. But then, the final straw came. The night I was napping, with my favorite singer's song playing softly, I felt the familiar oppressive weight pressing down again. Over 10 months, I had been pressed down over 100 times, sometimes 3 times in one night. As I struggled free, I thought, wouldn't it be nice if the pressure lasted longer, if I could just sleep through it? That's a weird thought, I know. I had become numb, lazy even, so I stopped cursing or resisting. I convinced myself to relax, to surrender to the sensation, telling myself it was just a part of living here. Because honestly, what's the point in fighting? I used a passive approach, mentally battling the shadowy figures that haunted me. But this time, something felt different. I was sure I was awake, yet I couldn't open my eyes. I listened to Zhang Yu's songs, even singing along in my head, as if some part of me was still aware. I heard the soft sobbing of a woman, faint but unmistakable. "Wah!" she wept, her voice small and muffled but clear enough to pierce through the silence. I'd never wanted so badly to escape this nightmare of sleep paralysis. When I finally sat up, tears streaming, I immediately called Lily, trembling. I told her, fiercely and desperately, that I couldn't stay anymore. She promised to come right away to help me pack up. I quickly contacted a strong friend with a van, and within a few hours, I was ready to leave. Fortunately, I didn't have much stuff, just a few bags, and I managed to pack everything quickly. My grandmother had been living abroad for years, and my mother's family only visited on special days, offering incense and prayers, but no one was living there now. I decided to stay temporarily at my grandmother's place, a safe haven for now. Before sunset, I was packed and ready to leave, almost fleeing in haste. As we moved my belongings onto the truck, we met the young couple living next door. They waved and joked, "You're finally moving out. You've been here the longest." Their tone was teasing, but I felt they weren't laughing at us. They seemed relieved. "You know, the previous tenants in that apartment all moved out quickly," the young woman said. "I don't know what happened to them, but I heard rumors. Why are you leaving?" They told me about a girl who used to jump from the roof, falling right onto the awning of the unit below. The only one that had a brand new awning now. Honestly, I had never paid attention to the awning before. Since I moved in, I never pulled aside the blinds or looked outside that window. I rarely sat near the small chairs and table by the window either. Maybe humans have a sixth sense, an instinct that warns us away from uncomfortable places. If so, why didn't my intuition alert me when I was house hunting? As I finished loading the last bag, I looked up at the building's exterior wall. The new awning was striking, bright and almost glaring in the sunset glow. I closed the car door, vowing never to step foot in that building again. The story ends. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mr. Macabre for more twisted tales that keep the darkness alive.